Hey, you guys, it's MJ. How are you? Thank you guys so much for your support and your comments of late. It's been incredibly like heartwarming, and I'm thankful. So, literally, like in the last couple of days, there have been some really significant sort of drop-ins, insight drop-ins with this whole tidal shift, this whole kind of like collective swing. So lots and lots of people starting new cycles, lots and lots of people breaking free. And then part of how this looks is that like the power structure is changing because the next generation is coming into power. That's us. That's us, like 30 somethings ultimately, right? So now that we've sort of finished this quite long, like 30-year cycle, a lot of the 80s babies now are stepping into their power, and so now this is a significant time of change where the voices of humanity, ultimately the heart of humanity, is having an awakening. And this awakening has always been in the works. It's always been, you could say, in the pipeline for a human sort of contextual evolution, as in even in our dominant story, we have the stories of our prophets. We have the stories of our great teachers and our messengers. And even as we awaken, our understanding of those beings is changing and impacting us in such a way that more and more beings are able to embody, integrate higher consciousness, which isn't better, it just vibrates at a higher frequency. And how we feel that or perceive that as humans is simply that we feel better. As beings, we're less miserable and we're more joyful. As beings, there's less disparity and there's greater clarity. As beings, we're less sick. We don't live in a sick culture. We live in a healthy culture, or where the masses are self-responsible and behaving in ways that are preventing illness, right? That's part of the shift of perspective. Is the shift of our own perspective usually comes about through certain lifestyle changes. So certainly if we're in that kind of mechanistic world conveyor belt, the change might be we do a yoga class, feel amazing after a yoga class, start doing more and more yoga. 5-6 years later, suddenly we're a yoga teacher, and we're living quite a radically different life than we were at a different time in our lives. So how I see it, and from the perspective of All to Love, it's like we are creating 4 pillars that are access to higher consciousness. So vegan, or not just veganism, but plant-based. So with that, we return to like the superfood, plant-based nutrition, like how we understand now that our body or organisms, the organisms that are these bodies, how they're going to work better in harmony with the planet and in themselves is by eating more whole food. So we have, becoming a plant-based vegan. We'll be writing a course, or we are writing it all now, but we have that. We have, how to go zero waste. So my business partner, her mind is just like compartmentalizing, looking at everything, looking at systematized ways of taking bin, compost. How do we implement? Certainly in the UK, they're so far behind here. Having all the different bins in the households, making sure that everywhere recycles, making sure that there's compost, making sure that there's, So we're implementing the structures that each individual can be responsible for in their household. Once we support one another making those changes, then we hold our higher systems accountable for them making those changes. It doesn't work the other way around. That's part of the illusion of the system and why it keeps us enslaved, is that we think we need them. Spread that awakening energy all through the collective, and eventually the collective rises. It's happening right now as we speak. So we have the zero waste, we have the going vegan, going plant-based, we have unplugging. So that's a huge piece as far as mental clarity goes, and energetic unlocking. So unlocking your own energetic authenticity versus the program that the mainstream media puts on you. And then yoga, spirituality, meditation. So those 4 courses are like access into your greater potential, your higher vibrational. And then for the deeper emotional work, if you're one of those people who need this support to support yourself through really your completion process, your transformation process, where you really break down and transform all of your deepest, darkest wounds, all of your energetic programs, which manifest in your life presently as toxicity, as patterns that hurt you, as behavioral pattern, like eating too much, binge eating, or purging, or drinking around the clock, or whatever it might be, right? We all have them to a certain degree. It just is, it's a matter of our intuitive set point with how much damage is it doing and how much do we really want to keep doing it. If we're doing something that other people might really think is super bad, but we're doing it with consciousness, that we're doing it in a way where we're trying to learn more, we're trying to expand our awareness of what it is, of what that compulsion, desire, then we're working with it in such a way that it will likely release anyway. So this isn't about fault finding. This isn't about saying, if you're not a vegan, you're a piece of shit human being. No, this is about saying, like, from my point of view, we're all cool. We're all good. Every single one of us. I truly believe every single one of us human beings is a totally divine and epic creator. However, depending on your energetic holding, if you're lying to yourself, you won't be like, and this is a big one that is really being lifted in various communities, is like niceness, people pleasing, niceness. We really have to look at that, because the truth is, guys, that's not nice at all. And I'm really having to shine light in those areas and hold space for myself as far as distancing myself from people who lie, to save face. So people who tell stories of their own victimhood or their own, oh my God, confusion, but they take no responsibility. It's like everyone else's fault that they're sad, or that they're being treated, that there's, and so I just think, breathe, let it go, because my people-pleasing tendency is to try to just be happy and shiny and for everyone all the time, and then when people are sad, I'm like, oh God, like, oh, and then I'll do that, and then I realize that I would subtly lie. I would mask my own truth. I would say things that weren't true in the moment because I didn't want to hurt that person's feelings. But then what happens is that my repressed feelings explode. Then those feelings, scatter onto them. If we're not willing to own and transform our own emotions, we're just going to stay locked in patterns and things will only get worse. That's part of why I feel so committed to sharing this stuff with you guys, is that if you are in denial of your feelings, if you don't know how to communicate your truth, whatever patterns you're in are not going to get better. They're only going to get kind of more compounded. They're only going to get more dense, which is why, like, I can honestly say, if we just keep working with something, it tends to not get really, really, really deeply stuck. But if we're just like, nope, I'm right, everyone else is wrong. Nope, my ideas are the best, or the world is shit and everyone else in the world sucks, or that person is just a bit crazy, or I'm just going to pretend like that person doesn't exist, or blah, 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 whatever fucking mental projections you can project that keep you disconnected from how you really feel about yourself and about life and about the people in your world, you just spin around in the chaos patterns, and I feel anyway that we're living in a time where that's just becoming less and less cool, like less and less tolerable, because the more and more of us who keep owning and transforming, we can just feel it, like we can just feel the fucking bullshit. And I mean, ultimately there'll be a massive sort of bifurcation, there'll be a massive pull apart, and like if people don't want to make those changes, they'll be the ones that won't be running things, they won't be the ones in power. And my biggest dream really is that people that do have aspects of power don't use it to manipulate people. Be honest with people, just be honest about how you feel and who you are. Like, telling stories about who we are is just be present. And it's only in my own self-discovery that I can continue to be more present. And it's only as I'm more present with myself that I can give myself permission to walk away from people and situations that hurt me, like straight up hurt me. And I own it. I own it because I know that that is a reflection of how I hurt myself and how I've been taught to hurt myself and how I've been maybe thought that that was the right way to live, that I should live in misery, that I should just live in hiding and please the few people around me who could give me a place to live, or who could provide me with a little bit of stay a servant, to people who don't take responsibility. And I just feel like that is the ultimate betrayal to my own heart. Not people cheating on me, not people denying me. It's me staying in that paradigm, thinking that no, that person is right, I'm wrong. No. And I don't want to pretend like I'm right, guys, because I'm not. But all I know is that I know how I feel, and I want to keep these good feelings. I want to keep stay in this flow. And the more I stay in this flow, the better it feels. And so the more I can say to you without a shadow of doubt, when you believe in yourself and take a leap and take a risk, the universe will reward you. You will reward yourself for the epic fucking journey that you've chosen. But if you choose to just stay in a life of fear, sort of masked as practicality, or fear masked as superiority, because you have this or you have that, or you're talented, or da 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 da, but you don't share your message and you don't show up, and you just pretend to be a fucking victim when actually you're privileged, far more privileged than the majority of human being, but you still don't share your wisdom, and you still don't share your voice with it. That's the whole, we're living in revolutionary times. We're living in mass global upheaval. We're living in times where pretty much every fucking system on this planet is going to be revolutionized. How we do food, how we do money, how we relate to one another, how we do marriage, how we do relationships. It's how we do work, how we do service, how we do business. It's all gonna shift. And it don't matter. If we're not ready, it's going to happen. So these are times for us to be incredibly open-minded, incredibly adaptable, and incredibly forgiving. But at the same time, taking no shit. I know my own heart, and I know how I feel, and forgiveness is easy because I love myself and I love people so much. And I know from my own past that when we're in pain, we create pain, we perpetuate pain. So yeah, it kind of does suck. But at the same time, I don't blame people. I don't hold grudges against people who treated me poorly, because I recognize that it's because they're in their own pain, they're in their own confusion. And whether they're lying or whether they're actively seeking to tear me down or tear someone down, it's because they're running away from themselves. They're running away from their own power. You can only acknowledge that as the truth, is that if you absolutely know that you're breaking free from the mold and claiming your freedom and stepping into your power and stepping into your truth, and people then reject you, it's because they're afraid. And it's not because they're afraid of you, but they're afraid of the part of themselves that you make them feel. The wound, or the part they don't want to look at, the part they don't want to own, they want to just deny it. They don't want to look at it. They want to make up drama over here, drama-fueled creations over here that are this or that. They just go around in circles being little puppet masters in little worlds, and don't necessarily affect a great amount of change, because there's isolation there. There's an isolation when we hide, right? And that's the difference. That is where this subtle practice, you have to keep practicing, and it doesn't end. It gets subtler and subtler and subtler, because you're manifesting from within subtler and subtler fields of energetic. And so or energy rather. So it's in those subtler realms of the energies, you become more aware of how other people vibrate their energies, of what areas of them are projecting out, of what areas that are in denial. And ultimately, that's where I've always been coming from since I started doing this transformational work in a very conscious way, like 7 years ago, where I knew intuitively, I was like, well, I know I can forgive and move on, and I'm open to discuss, and I'm open to have conversations ultimately. However, I'm willing to be in presence with somebody, but at the same time, if they're just going to attack, or, well, in fairness, like, even though I've remained the kind of open channel of like, if you want to have a conversation about it sometime, fine, or, you know, you want to talk or da da da, but usually people don't reach out. You know, I might be aware they want to try to engage. They don't actually, and they might. And sometimes they do. That's great, and that's super fun when collectives can find harmony again. But again, in my experience, a lot of people don't. And so for my awareness, and usually energetically, if I even try to feel into that field, there's just denial. People just, again, they kind of wrap themselves in their little worlds and bubbles and just pretend like these other people never existed. And fair dues, like truly fair dues. I part of this whole like non-people pleasing shift is that I really am not here to fix people. I'm not here to change people. I don't want to. It's too tiring. You know, it's exhausting. That's part of my own self-abuse pattern is I've just been perpetually in relationships where I've felt like I should help this person make an awesome business or help them, you know, set up this or help them do this and help them do this while I'm still trying to do my own stuff and working on my own stuff. But no, I'll focus and, you know, make sure, yeah, they'll make all this money and it'll be so fantastic and da 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 da. But then as soon as I want to focus on myself, they're like, they cut off, they like don't want to. So in fairness, right now, what the beautiful thing is because I've been following the intuition, because I've been riding this wave of like, you know, the new paradigm, I can now really just let go. I can now just really be like super duper thankful for all the many people that have come to my world and come into my life and taught me amazing life lessons. Just profound. Everyone in my life. Everyone in my life has just taught me the most profound lessons, and I'm thankful and I'm grateful, like so deeply, probably more than you realize. However, I am one with my intuition, and I can feel where my flow is asking me to go, and one knows, you know, if you're genuinely in a heart of compassion and honor, if you're genuinely in a heart of honesty from within yourself, then you may feel the courage and strength to reach out and heal self from within self. At the same time, those who are not will not necessarily gravitate over to Alta Love. Those who don't want to pioneer a new world won't necessarily align with Alta Love. Because if we're not aligned with love, and there's lots and lots of people on this planet who are, and there's lots of amazing, beautiful love rebels who are breaking free and pioneering beautiful movements, amazing innovations that are really sweeping us all up into this awakening. So that's the truth. And then if you're not truly in your heart, if you're perpetuating fear, if you're perpetuating distortion, if you're perpetuating codependency and lack and judgment, if you're just going to stay in that, your life will just kind of like stay there, and you won't necessarily even align with this stuff. You won't necessarily even find this stuff. You'll just probably, I don't know, but I wish you so much love, and I wish you so much light, and I just want you guys to know that, yeah, the world is changing, and it's changing fast. And if you just let go, weirdly, there's the paradox is that be fucking selfish. Be ruthless when it comes to listening to your intuition. Because in my observation on this journey, the large majority of people are not. So you can't listen to other people because they're not talking from the heart space of the infinite. They're talking from a limited perspective of distortion and fear and codependency. Fear that locks them in patterns that are mean to themselves and other people, rather than breaking down. Because there's this weird thing that emotions are bad, but they're not. So yeah, I've let myself break down over and over again, and I'm not ashamed. And I'm not going to let other people make me feel ashamed anymore of who I am and of what I've been through. I'm going to rise, and I'm going to keep sharing and shining and expressing my truth, because when I express my truth, all I feel is flow and oneness and compassion and love. And it's taken me a while to get here, and it's been a fucking intense journey, and no one can take that away from me. And that's why that's why it's worth it. Because I might not have much at all as far as like material wealth and possession goes, but I got the oneness connection. And I'm at a point where I can honestly say the oneness connection is always going to keep you safe. It's always going to keep you divinely guided and protected. But it might just be that along that divine path, you're going to have to shine some light into some darkness. And it might be pretty fucking painful. Because there's an infinite universe of energies. And we are all of it. And so sometimes when we shine light, we might have to face parts of ourselves that we don't necessarily like based on the program, the limited program of the mainstream media. But if you can just sit there and be with it, it'll pass. And you'll learn to embrace it. Because when you embrace the darkness, it turns to light and stays light. I hope that was useful to you guys. I hope you have an amazing day today. And I just love you loads. That's what my heart vibrates always. And yeah, know that you're loved. Take care, guys.